Hey everyone, welcome to the class tonight. I'm Dr. Bear. Happy Halloween. Uh, Tonight, um, we'll be talking about truth and illusion. Uh, Good topic, right? What is truth? How do you know what is truth? And what is illusion? So I'm coming at this from tradition of Sufism, particularly the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan. I teach heart rhythm meditation. This is a particular method of meditation. It focuses on your breath and your heartbeat. It might be different than what you've experienced before if you're new to the show. Um, if you join me regularly, you might notice Leah's not here. She'll be back next week. Of course, we'll miss her very much tonight. Uh, Maybe she's trick or treating. I'm not sure. um, so, how do you know what's true, right? Um, we disagree about this. We disagree about what we see out in the world. We have different perspectives. What is this? We use labels, we use words to describe reality, and of course we interpret things according to our own experiences, and particularly according to our own emotional frame, right? What it is that um, the experiences that matter to us, that have really shaped us. um, that's going to play a big role in terms of how we see things, whether we see things as a threat, whether we see it as something we're attracted to, right? um, but is there truth, and how do you, if so, how do you find this? So my dog is weighing in on this matter. Yeah, somebody's knocked on the door. um, so Sufism tells us that truth can be found by looking within. Truth can be found in your heart. But how? I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean whatever you feel is true? I mean, we feel all kinds of things, right? Feelings change. you know, um, how do we evaluate that? Is whatever we feel true? Um, there is a sense in which that's true, right? That is, what we feel is true for us in that moment. Um, but we tend to cling towards it, right? We want to form conclusions. We want our feelings to be rational, logical, right? This is our minds trying to be in charge of an experience that is bigger than our minds, because it always is. um, Life does not conform to your expectations. Life does not conform to your judgments. Life is not consistent, orderly all the time, right? Um, so trying to put experience into a box, it's always going to be too limited, right? Um, so how do we proceed? What does it mean even to look for truth in that context, right? Um, Well, the Sufis have some interesting things to say about this, right? They say truth is that which lasts, truth endures. Uh, and what can we say about that in the midst of all of our confusion? You know, um, what is a truth that is deeper than our transitory changes in our thoughts and feelings, and right, because we know that a lot of what we feel and what we think, it changes, from moment to moment or day to day. I mean, think about something that really upsets you, right? Are you as upset about it the next day? Probably not, right? On the other hand, there are wounds in your heart, things that really deeply affect you and that might not diminish over time. Hopefully, there's only a few of those for each one of us, right? But we tend to see things through the lens of that pain. Okay, so how can we get clearer on this, right? What is truth? What is illusion? um, the Sufis say Look at all of the great spiritual traditions, all of the religions, all emphasize the same central idea, which is that life is one. All of reality is one being, one existence. Now, that's a fascinating philosophical kind of position, right? Because when in our minds, when we look at reality, we see separation, we see fragmentation, we see this is the self, this is not the self, you know, and that's important for our day-to-day existence. It's important to know that, hey, if I put my hand on this stove, it's going to burn, right? Like that's there's me and there's not me, and our survival depends on understanding that, right? Depends on us perceiving threats accurately, in knowing where the self begins and ends. But this is, okay, so that's a certain basic level of survival, right? But for our development and for our understanding to become full human beings, we notice that there's certain things that are universal, that we have feelings in our hearts, and those feelings are the same feelings that other people have. I mean, they may be attached to different objects, right? But the feeling is the same. How do we know that the feeling is the same? You feel it, right? When someone describes an emotion that you have also described, and particularly if they describe it in a way that takes you into that, right? Now, this is often in the realm of art, through music, through poetry, through storytelling, through dance, through color, through all of these things, right? Something that takes you into that feeling. It evokes that emotion in you. It's the same emotion. You experience it differently according to your individuality, right? But certain experiences are simply universal, and our words describe that. Our words convey that, right? Now, without the experience, the words are meaningless, right? Um, you can read all about love, but if you've never been in love, then it's going to be, you know, it's abstract at best. And like be sort of like if you never tasted food and then you're reading all about it. Okay, well, sounds interesting, right? You need to have that experience for that to be meaningful, right? Then okay, the writing about food is very evocative, right? Or the writing about love, very touching because it you feel in that something that you felt before, right? So we have this common experience among mystics everywhere, right? So in Sufism, in every mystical tradition has this. That is the experience of unity, the experience that everything is one. Excuse me. I've got a little bit of allergies this coming up this season. The wind has changed here in Southern California where I live, and so sort of stirred everything up. So it's affecting my breathing a little bit. Uh, so you have to bear with me here. So, what is this experience of unity? How does it help us to discover and inhabit this place of truth? Well, we have to kind of get into it, right? We have to build the experience. Here's what we know about the steps and stages of meditation. Okay, meditation is a practice. It is designed to help you get into this state of unity consciousness, the feeling that all things are one, and including yourself, right? So there's steps to this, okay? And the beginning step is to focus your mind, right? That means your mind and your activity are unified, okay? So two important parts of your being, what you're doing and your thoughts, what you're focusing on are united. So you often see this, okay? A cornerstone of all kinds of meditation is to focus your mind. Now, this is so foundational that sometimes people say, Well, that's what meditation is, or that's all meditation is, focusing the mind. No, no, that's the beginning. Okay. This is a little bit like saying, you know, um, a lot of sports involve, walking or something. So walking is sport. No, right? I mean, that's, you know, okay, you have to walk before you run or whatever, right? But like, it's a step, like, um, it's not the end, it's the beginning. So we concentrate, and that's a certain unification that happens there. Okay. Then we enter a state of flow, all right, where we feel we are, no longer separate from the activity. That's where it feels like we are not focusing on our breath, but we are being breathed. You know, um, we become the breath, we become the practice. Um, that's a whole different step, right? That feels very different than focusing your mind. Focusing your mind is a challenge. Being in the flow is easy. It's wonderful. It's a fantastic experience. Okay, it's the flow state. So described in modern psychology, the flow state. Um, this is not the end of meditation either, right? We're still kind of in the beginning, right? Then we get to a point where this flow state opens up to include the unlimited in some area. Usually we have a kind of window into the unlimited. We experience that in a certain way. Perhaps we experience that as unlimited time, okay, the experience of eternity. Now, at this point, it starts to get pretty hard to describe, right? What does eternity feel like? Um, or maybe we experience it as the being completely without limitation, being experiencing perfection. What is that like? Um, or experiencing infinite space like this, um, or or if you're focusing on your heart and your emotions, infinite emotion. Wow, right? I mean, it starts to get pretty trippy at this point. It starts to be pretty hard for your mind to conceive of this, right? So, and you find this, you read the writings of sages and saints and prophets and mystics throughout history, and they will often talk in a way that is pretty hard to understand, you know. And yet it's captivating because it has that real feeling in it, right? Where the people are trying to describe something, it's so important that you can feel in them, in their writing, even if they've been dead a long time, right? You can feel the urgency of that, um, the desire to convey this ineffable thing, Maybe you feel it in me. I don't know. um, because this state is so incredible. It's just mind blowing. Um, it changes your perspective. It helps you to understand yourself in a way that your mind cannot. Because we're bigger than just our mind. The truth is we're everything, right? Our spirits are unlimited. Our spirits are perfect. Our spirits are eternal. You experience your spirit deep within your heart. So, now it's one thing for me to say this, right? Hopefully it's beautiful and inspiring and whatever. I hope so, Um, it's another thing for you to know this yourself, for you to know this because you've experienced it, right? To know it because it's a familiar place to you, something that you haven't just felt once, but that you felt many times, Um, so how do you do that, right? Well, you follow the steps in meditation. Okay, you focus your mind, you focus on your breath, you focus on your heart. Let's try it and see if we can get a taste of what is this truth that the mystics speak of. So begin by taking a nice upright posture for meditation, and you want the feeling that your um, weight is resting on your sits bones, and your head is suspended as if from above. It's important that your spine be straight, that your energy be up. If you sit back on your chair, if you slump back, it puts your body into sleep mode, into rest mode, particularly if you have your eyes closed. Because when you have your eyes closed, your body is thinking, oh, it's time to sleep now. But meditation is not sleep. In sleep, you unfocus your mind. You allow your mind to just go where it will. And of course, this is necessary in order to fall asleep. You have to release your mind. If your mind remains focused, remains on its thread, whatever that is, it's very difficult to fall asleep. There needs to be a moment where you release that focus. Meditation, we are keeping the focus of the mind, and I'm suggesting practicing Heart Rhythm meditation. You focus your attention on your breath and on your heart. We're seeking to perfect the breath. So we would like to make the breath deep, slow, rhythmic, heart-centered, and full. So making the breath deep means you breathe in and you allow your belly to expand. Allow your belly to get bigger. Breathe out and your belly contracts. Your belly button moves in toward your spine. Now you can get a feel for this and remind yourself to do it by simply just taking your hand and placing it on your belly and feeling the movement of your belly there. You know, by habit, we tend to breathe up in our chest, particularly if we're upright, right? Upright for your body is associated with action. It's associated with being out in the world where we keep ourselves armored. We keep our bellies armored. We don't let our bellies be soft, right? That's associated with rest, with relaxation. So we're doing a very interesting thing here physiologically where we're being upright, our back straight, our spine upright, and yet we're trying to, as much as we can, allow the belly to be relaxed and the breath to be deep. Belly expanding as you breathe in and contracting, getting smaller as you breathe out. And you may notice there's something rather comforting about having your hand on your belly and breathing. Just this simple practice is often very helpful for calming anxiety. Presence of your hand on your belly brings you into your body. And the breath down low in the body triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. That part of the nervous system which is associated with relaxation. All right, the next step is to make the breath slow. So that is to extend the exhalation. You're breathing out, your belly button is moving in toward your spine, and just extend that exhalation a bit longer. And then as you breathe in, extend that inhalation a bit longer. So your breathing rhythm is slower and takes longer to inhale and longer to exhale. All right, so the next step is to make the breath rhythmic and heart centered. And we can do both of these steps in the same moment. Rhythmic breathing is very important because the breath is our fundamental exchange with life itself. Energetically, we are exchanging energy with every breath. Breathing in, we are receiving energy, and breathing out, we are expressing energy. We would like that to be balanced. We don't want to be receiving more than we are giving out, nor do we want to be giving out more than we are receiving. Because that creates imbalances. If we're taking in more, then we're not reaching our potential. If we're giving out more, we get burned out. And both of these things cause us frustration. Both of these things cause us pain. So, the easiest way to make our energetic streams even is to make the breath even in rhythm, to have the inhalation be the same length and intensity as the exhalation. And at the same time, we want to focus our attention, focus our breath on our hearts, on the energetic center of our being, that vessel which holds the infinite, timeless, perfect light of your soul. We want to energize our hearts with our breath. So the method is to breathe in and feel your heart beating and count those beats so that the inhalation is the same number of beats as the exhalation. Now, this can be challenging. Some of you perhaps will be able to feel your heartbeat right away, and some of you will struggle to find it, or maybe you'll feel it part of the time and not others. But it has tremendous value to pay attention to your heartbeat. Your heartbeat and your breath are two fundamental rhythms. And of course, one of the main problems with modern life is that we become out of whack, out of rhythm. We have this separation from nature, and that separation allows us to ignore the natural rhythms to some extent. But we do that at our peril. By tuning into your breath and heartbeat, you can restore that rhythm. And rhythm is the key to health, it's the key to wholeness. So even if you cannot feel your heartbeat, cannot feel it consistently, maybe you can't feel it at all, there's a lot of benefit to the act of trying. And if you cannot feel it, you might try just taking your fingertips and pressing on your breastbone. Maybe you feel the pulse in your fingertips. You can even sit with your hand, your fingertips touching your wrist, feeling a pulse in that way. If all else fails, you can just imagine breathing in for and just count in your mind. How many heartbeats should you be breathing in for, and how many heartbeats should you be breathing out for? Well, I would like that number to be the same. Now, you can choose the number, but if you are committed to this practice, I would like you to get to the point where you're breathing in for 8 beats and breathing out for 8 beats. But that may not be appropriate for you today. You be the judge. If you're new to this and trying it out, maybe you start with 4. Maybe that's the right number for you. You know better than I. So now we are doing 4 things with our breath. We're breathing deep, we're breathing slow, we're breathing rhythmically, and we're focusing the attention on our hearts. Now, whenever you focus on anything, your mind rebels. Your mind is like a horse that does not want to be saddled. It tries to kick you off. It wants to go where it wants to go. So you just do your best. Focus your mind on your breath. Pay attention to the breath. Notice the feeling of the breath. Feel that it is your heart that is breathing. And as you take in breath, your heart is receiving energy, light, love. And as you breathe out, your heart is expressing. Your heart is giving. Your heart is growing, developing, moving toward that which you desire. Now, the final step in our rhythm meditation is to make the breath full. And what this means is to really squeeze your abdominal muscles as you breathe out. Breathe out more than you think you can. Breathe out more and more and more. Squeeze all the breath out on the exhalation. Then, keeping the breath controlled, you shift to the inhalation. Expand the belly, expand the chest. Breathe all the way up to your collarbone. So, with the full breath, we're not just breathing into the belly anymore. We're beginning there. As we inhale, we are expanding the belly first, and then continuing that expansion all the way up into the chest. And as we exhale, we're emptying the chest and then squeezing the abdominal muscles, breathing all the way out, really bringing that belly button in toward the spine. And this gives your breath far more power. You feel the breath reaching toward what? Toward the fullest development, toward the fullest exploration of the energy that you are in touch with, that you are experiencing. The Sufis use a wonderful word to invoke truth, and that word is haq. So as you breathe in, just say this word to yourself as you feel your heart beating. Each beat of your heart, say this to yourself in your mind. Haq, haq, haq. It's a very powerful sound, a very uncompromising sound. It comes to a hard stop. Feel that truth reverberating through your being. Breathe into it. As you breathe in, every beat says haq. As you breathe out, every beat says haq. Haq means divine truth. It means the truth of God, the truth that has always existed and will always exist, the ultimate truth. So as you breathe, consider, what is that for you? What is your ultimate truth? How do you experience that? What do you know to be true? And as you sit with this, try to move beyond the mental constructs. It's tempting, right, to say, okay, well, I know this because of that, and so on. Ideas, concepts. Hazrat Inayat Khan says, fact is the shadow of truth. And a fact is always too limited. Truth cannot really be put into words, after all. Words are inevitably too small to contain it. This is why the fundamentalists often produce the opposite of the intended effect of the sacred scriptures that they revere. We find this sometimes in the followers of Jesus. And Jesus spoke so much about forgiveness, and yet his modern followers seem to be sometimes the least forgiving people of all. Not to indict anyone, of course, because there's always a tremendous number of exceptions, but you see the problem, right? And that's not just in Christianity, of course, that's in many other traditions as well. Plunge your attention, your emotion so deeply into the thought of truth, of Hak, that becomes the only thing that you experience. Like a light that springs from within you, that you dive into, immerse yourself in. Enter the experience of the light of truth. Turn your attention toward the ones that you love. Notice that those that you are bound to through love and concern are in your heart. They are in your energetic field. Your heart is a space, they are in that space with you. fact is that anyone you have become close to, whether that is positive or negative, however you judge it, is in your heart. Whether the experience has been good or bad or some complicated mix of both, as it typically is, that person is there in your heart, perhaps associated with joy or with pain or any mixture. Fascinating the way our hearts long to join with others, long to experience what another experiences, to experience other energies, to experience other approaches, other ways of seeing the world. What is it that fascinates us about a book or a movie? It's entering another world. And always the thing that fascinates us the most is the characters. And are you fascinated only by characters who are like you? No, of course not. We're fascinated by all kinds of characters. The more fascinating they are, is the more they allow us to enter that world. Whether they're like us or different is secondary. But is our guard lowered? Do we go into that other experience? And why do we have such a longing for that? Well, may I suggest that it is because our hearts know that life is one. Our hearts are always seeking to grow, to develop, to experience, to unfold our potential. And that following this path does not lead to things being easy. It doesn't make life easy. The purpose of life, my friends, is not to be easy. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news, but life would look different if that was its purpose. The purpose of life is growth, is development, is the unfolding of our infinite potential. And in this limited world, that will lead to difficulty. But when those difficulties arise, you can draw upon the truth within, the light within, the perfection within. And may it be as a torch in the night, lighting your path. right, we'll end our meditation there. Oh, I see my friend is here. Akbar Kadus, good to see you. Trick or treat, happy Halloween. Dogs love Halloween. As my dog does. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. It's good to sit with you all. I feel the energy. Um, this is why we do the class live, with all of its potential of messing up and whatever, right? Um, because there's something special about sitting together in a live environment. Oh, I see my friend Shakar is here. Good evening, Asatar. Good evening to you, my friend. Good to see you here. Good to sit with you. And to everyone else who's joined or who has popped in for a moment, however you experience the class is good. Um, when I was learning meditation, we didn't have this kind of thing, so I learned it in person. Um, so I'm I suppose maybe not the best person to do this because it's like somebody who's learned this way maybe is better at it. I don't know, but I think we explore new technology, right? And we can connect. There's something special about a live stream because we can connect to it wherever we are. And I think there's a truth in that, right? We are connected in our hearts wherever we are. The distance doesn't matter. We know this with the people that we love who are far away. That doesn't lessen the connection any. We miss them, but it doesn't lessen the connection. So, well, good to sit with you all this evening. We'll be back next week. Leah should be returning then. And if, as always, if you have any questions or things you'd like me to address, drop a comment, send a note. I'd love to know about it. Love to be able to speak on it. And if you'd love to, we'd love to have you support the show. If you feel called to do that, there's a link to the Patreon. So thank you so much for being with me tonight, and I'll see you all hopefully next week. Take care.